Bryan, yesterday it hit like a sack of bricks. I said it hit like a foul ball to the face. The settlement announcement, all of a sudden, bang, and 2 hours later, Blake is on the red carpet at the Met Gala. Is everything as we think it is? Is this over and done with that quickly? And if so, I mean, when did these discussions begin? Because it certainly felt out of left field.
Well, I think there have been intermediate discussions for a while that were relatively unproductive, to say the least, and I think it there were deeper discussions over the weekend, and I think that it got closer as time went on, and as Sunday hit. And then, as Monday hit.
Are we? So are we done? So, because I mean, have you guys checked the docket there? Has Lyman pulled it down? Is this over for him, or is this still is it done? Is it finished?
Excuse me for trying to fix my tie. I'm going to be taking a class on ties, so.
It's not good.
And,
it's askew.
I think I think until the docket removes the trial and the Daubert motions, that we're not absolutely done with anything, frankly. But it looks good.
It looks good, but it's not done. I mean, not done until the court signs off, until everything gets removed there. Are you confident, if you were Polymarket, where would you put, I mean, we know one thing about Hollywood, and I'm sure the same goes with the law. It ain't done until it's done.
Right. I mean, let's put it this way. If I was Polymarket, I would stay away from this completely, because it seems like a lot of people are getting in trouble on this Polymarket stuff, that is inside information. So, but that's probably not really the question you're asking. I think where the parties are is where people are working on an agreement and the terms of an agreement, and I think in concept certain major points have been agreed to, which which we're very pleased with. And as they always say, right, the devil is in the details, and we'll see what the agreement looks like and work on that agreement. And but as far as we'd like to believe we have an agreement, and we will.
We have a statement, but we don't have an agreement.
I think that you have a statement, you have an intention to have an agreement, but you don't have an agreement.
Okay. Well, there you have it. What was the wow? When did these? I mean, was this like a frantic weekend? And am I wrong in assuming there was like a lot of pressure to get this done in a short amount of time? And did that have to do with the Met Gala, or would that just be speculation?
Oh, I don't think it had anything to do with the Met Gala at all. Well, maybe it did, but I wasn't aware of it having to do with the Met Gala. I think it had to do with working out terms of a resolution that that hopefully recognized the domestic violence survivors, that recognized that some people have been forgotten through this process, and I think it's really important that that those people not be forgotten. I can't I can't tell you that this movie is Justin really wanted to impact the domestic violence survivor community, and for years, and really do something that made a difference. And he really tried to market the film like that. He really tried to be thoughtful in that approach. And I think that was part of the statement that went out, was to recognize that. And
Except for it said domestic violence survivors and all survivors. I mean, this seems to me only all survivors. We're talking about a movie that is about domestic violence. So the "and all survivors," in my estimation, would only be Blake asking for that line to be put in. And you don't have to respond. I mean, but all survivors of what? Of what else? Oh, the thing that got thrown out?
I can't really talk about the terms of the agreement and the terms that were worked on. But look, Billy, we've played pickleball together. And, sometimes when we play and you're on your game, I feel like, at times a survivor. So
yeah, you are.
But I'd like to believe that
it's not the manliest sport to be really good at, but I happen to be good at something that really is standing on a ping pong table.
I do think that you're not shy about your game, and and maybe what we need to do is just have a full Olympic battle, go to Venice Beach, play, some paddle tennis, zip over to a pickleball court, and then go to ping pong. And I believe with guys like you and I, Billy, we'll need some refs.
Probably. You look like, you look like out there, you look like a kid that's going to, that just hasn't you still go to summer camp because you like with the cutoff sleeves and the basketball shorts that come down past the knees. I mean, not to critique there. And you are getting off topic, but I'm going to move you right back. Justin Baldoni did not get an invitation to the Met Gala. Where is he? How is he doing? How is he feeling?
I haven't seen the guest list of the Met Gala, but I don't know actually whether he got an invitation or not. I assume that he did not. But more importantly, how he's feeling is he's feeling that he's feeling that he's been through a lot. And that this has taken a toll on him. It's taken a toll on his family. Yeah. It's taken a toll on domestic violence survivors. And
they seem to have gotten lost in the way. I mean, the domestic violence survivors, who apparently this was all about, they seem to be left in the wake of all of this. I imagine Justin Baldoni doesn't know what to feel. Like, okay. Can you tell me this? The settlement, I don't even need to ask you. I know it was initiated by Blake Lively and her lawyers. How would you describe the terms? Can you? Did Justin get paid?
I can't speak to the terms. The terms are confidential. What's not confidential is the experience that people went through, and I think I think that Justin is eager to tell his story and is eager to share what his experience is like. And as other,
he could have done that in court. He could have done that in the courtroom, right? I mean, this was his chance to stand up and actually speak and tell his. I mean,
Well, here's the difference, right? When you're standing up and speaking in court, you're admonished to answer the questions that are asked of you.
Right. You're not granted a monologue.
Right. It's doubtful that anyone's going to say, what was like this on your wife, Emily? What did you share with your children about what was going on? What happened when you went through airports and people stopped you and some took pictures and what did it feel like to have your address put all over the internet? Were you scared about that? And those are questions that won't be asked at a trial. Did you
talk about survivors?
Right. And what did it feel like to have, really powerful people in the entertainment community plotting against you through emails that and text messages that exist. What went on in your heart over that, and how did you feel? And was this overwhelming? Was this, were you angry? Were you, upset? Were you trying to be loving and understanding? Were you trying to, what was this like for you? And I can tell you this, every time that Justin saw a TikToker, a content creator, and someone that supported him, it touched his heart. It gave him just a little bit of wholeness, and well,
that's it, Bryan, because this thing came, the mainstream media, it seemed, that was kind of or I don't know if they were pro Blake, but they certainly were friendly, and social media, podcast world, content creators were very much behind Justin Baldoni, it seems. So I think this is an appropriate time, at least to shout out those who I've gotten to know, like Zach Peter and Kirsty Flaw and Andy at Popcorn Planet and Donna Bowling and Without a Crystal Ball and all these people that, carried the torch for Justin. I mean, I bet if he really thought about it, he would get emotional. They all did,
I think they carried the torch for the truth.
Yeah.
And they spent their time digging and digging and digging in order to find the truth. And it's a shame that many of them were subpoenaed, and many of them, it cost them money. But I have found that they are brilliant, and passionate and interesting, and look, they're not, some of these people sided with Justin, others didn't, but they had their own reasons for that, but they did incredible research. They did incredible interviews. They found things. I think that the lawyers in the case.
I know, it's so amazing that people. I mean, it's really this is people. Everyone's a great legal mind in training. There's so many intelligent people, and I got to shout out my girl Elsie, who I have on all the time. She's unbelievable. She's in logistics and lives like in Ohio, and she's just, but she can get in there and really, you should hire Elsie. She knows what in lumine and in limine and Daubert, and she spouts this stuff incredibly. So shout out to Elsie. Bryan, it seems to me also a big thing here is that even if this actually blows up and goes forward or something goes wrong here, there is another case between Stephanie Jones and between Melissa Nathan and Jen Abel, the publicists. They don't seem to be open to settlement at all. That seems to be more bitter. And I ask you, if that were to go forward, which it seems like it is, can Blake and Justin be deposed in that, and therefore they end up on the stand in a different trial, but under the same,
there's many machinations of what could happen. I mean, discovery in that case is, in part is closed. But look, Wayfair is involved in that case also. And, there are allegations about interference with Jen Abel's contract with Stephanie Jones's company. There are allegations. I mean, there's some serious rulings that came down that are really significant in the case against Stephanie Jones. But there are a number of people in that case, and that will be a vigorous, hard-fought case. People rely on their lawyers. They rely on their publicists. They rely on their agents. They rely on their managers. They rely on family members, to support them and to tell the truth about them. And sometimes when that happens in a crushing, significant way, where someone is belittled, wrongfully accused, and otherwise, that in cases like that, it's devastating for those individuals. And if you know one thing about Justin Baldoni, if you know one thing about the people in this case, and frankly, if I've learned one thing about content creators, are these people fight for what's right at their great expense, and they're and notwithstanding what someone may say negatively about them on a comment, or on social media, and it can be very hurtful. But these people have amazed me at the passion, the intelligence, the honesty, the brilliance, and frankly the humor that they've brought to it. Billy, you're a extremely funny guy, and when you get together with these content creators, we should go to the Comedy Store and watch this thing unfold. They're just so talented, and
Well, don't count me out. Listen, I am one. Look, you mentioned something about Stephanie Jones and Jenny. Look, Stephanie Jones says she's got a mountain of evidence, and publicists are all very tough people, and they fight like crazy for their. I don't know. I mean, there aren't that many that are totally clean. Are you confident that Melissa Nathan and Jen Abel are completely, scot-free clean on their side of the street against, Stephanie Jones? She'll say that that's not the case. She also did this, apparently a study with a digital forensic team that looked into these smear sites that she says Melissa Nathan is the one who with Jed Wallace, that the two of them, put these sites together, went after her. And a smear is a smear if you're telling a lie. If a website just promotes the truth or something that isn't a lie, then it's not a smear. But if anything in there isn't true, are you confident that they walk away clean here, that they are clean?
I'm confident that, it's actually somewhat embarrassing in some respects to think that we're in 2026 and what you're talking about is somebody putting information on a website that hasn't even been deemed to be true or untrue. It's hardly, this, secret agent, crazy kind of like, in the world that we live in, there's a whole AI component to things. I mean, what you don't see and what you haven't heard is that video is untrue. That's not me. That's not what it purports to be. I mean, you haven't heard anything like that. As a matter of fact, you haven't even heard anything that says, I'm unaware of Melissa Nathan, having the capacity, frankly, to form a website. And if you're familiar with the
Jed
documents
can do that.
released,
I mean, if he were, Jed certainly has the skills to do that. Melissa probably not, but I mean.
But if you actually look at the signal messages that were released in our case, it's almost should be a comedy show. I mean, people are like, do you know how to post this? Do you know how to post that? It's almost embarrassing because it wasn't like these skilled operators who know how to post whatever it is. And there's been so much made of this by ulterior motives and whatnot that it's become kind of the tail that wags the dog. And the truth is, I feel terrible for people like Jen Abel and Melissa Nathan and Jed Wallace who have been drugged unnecessarily through this. When you look at the dates that they were hired, you look at what actually took place with the record prevail of the shows. And if people can turn the internet in like a matter of a couple of days, boy, they have some special magic skills.
Yeah, I will say one of the big events is who reached out to the Daily Mail. When there was a ceasefire amongst the teams and when the movie was coming out, who reached out to the Daily Mail? And, many people think, Stephanie Jones was the one who broke the détente and re-engaged when they shouldn't. Stephanie Jones will tell you it was actually Melissa Nathan. They're going to go fight that out. All I know is if I'm Blake and I'm Justin and you guys find a settlement, you're going to settle, it would be in both. Don't you think it's in both of their interest to then circle back to their supporting players or people tangentially connected to their side, Stephanie, Melissa Nathan, and get them to settle? I mean, I bet you Ryan Reynolds is paying a lot of money here for this settlement. You know, he could pay more. Isn't it in everyone's interest for it all to go away? Because Blake and Justin are still in play if that lawsuit continues.
I think it's in everybody's interest, that people are able to move on from this experience, learn from it, become better people from it.
You'd like to think,
and learn from the experience that they all are human beings, and going through litigation, especially when you're not a lawyer, can be a daunting thing, whether you're the plaintiff or you're the defendant or otherwise, because rarely do you see satisfaction at the end of a lawsuit. Rarely do you see, okay, gee, I got back everything I put out. Everything is now clarified. Everything is now cleaned up. You don't get that at the end of a lawsuit. In most cases, maybe if it's a patent, dispute over patent rights and somebody gets patent rights, what you really end up seeing is appeals, more appeals. Sometimes you win the appeals. Sometimes it goes on for 5 or 10 years. And at the end of all of it, what you miss out on is time with your children. You miss out on time with your partners. You miss out on feeling free and really feeling like you're going to be okay. And my biggest
I like what you're saying here as a litigator. It's very interesting. Are you sending? Is that a message to someone in particular?
It's really not a message to anyone in particular. It's that I find that. I find that from this, and I've represented a lot of people in their worst moments. Chris Harrison, Chris Cuomo. When certain people got fired, whether it was Tucker Carlson or Don Lemon, and in their worst moments, and what you find is that ultimately, that people have to find a spiritual inside about knowing who they are, what they did, what they didn't do, stand up for what's wrong. But most importantly, love their wife, love their husband, love their spouse, love their partner, and be grateful that they're there, and find the gratitude within what could be a 5-10 year process of litigation. And really look at their lives and say, wow, I'm lucky. I tell people all the time, you know what? You're in a lawsuit. You're feeling devastated. How about taking a drive over to Children's Hospital and sitting in the lobby and watch what comes in there? You'll feel a lot better.
You're a man who makes money when people fight. I mean, that's you see people through a terrible battle. You sound like a guy that might be ready to retire. You're just like, everybody love one another. What is, you've been spending a lot of time with Baldoni. Are you going to get a man bun and go, sit in the yurt and and hang him up?
I'm not sure that I could grow the man bun, but what I want, like what I want is, the lawsuit's a long process. I'm not saying don't get into a lawsuit. You can get into a lawsuit and you can fight all you want, but understand also the trials and tribulations that others are going through, right? When you sit in Children's Hospital and you see what families are going through, right? You get a perspective that a lawsuit means something. It doesn't mean that your family, your friends, or their health is at physical risk. So I advocate for the lawsuit is what you need to do to clear your name, and certainly you do when you're accused of sexual harassment. Then by all means fight like in an ethical but a very tough way. And in those times where you're scared and you're emotional and you think this is the worst thing you're going through, take a ride over to Children's Hospital. You might not think it's the worst thing you could be going through.
For sure. Well, hopefully they have found their off ramp, but I don't know that that's the case. That it is completely done. We've addressed that at the top. Bryan, you might want to lift your chair just a second ago. I think you're sinking, and all I'm seeing is the knot of your tie. Go up there for a minute. But when did you tell Justin, hey, dude? We got a call here, and a settlement is in the offing, and I'm about to get into some conversations about that. When did you have that chat with him?
I think everything took place very quickly. It was a very, very fast process, and it happened frankly within days over the weekend. Days or less than days, and so that that process was immediate, and it was very quick, very quick.
So like the whole weekend, and then from we have an agreement to statement, a matter of hours, a day.
I would say that it was, somewhere between a day and a half, to half a day, depending upon what moment you were in at any particular time. But, there was an opening, at a certain point, and that opening, sometimes when you get an opening that's too good to be true, and, and you take that opening.
Panda Machine in the comment section. What caused her to give in? I was just thinking that myself. And that is, I'm interested, the texts that became public between Ange Giannetti and Josh Greenstein at Sony Pictures, where she said, Blake said in deposition that she never tampered with any of the dailies, never tampered or destroyed any of the dailies. And then Ange Giannetti texts Josh Greenstein and says, hey, Blake wants us to destroy the dailies. A direct refute of what she said in deposition. So I think she was caught in a lie there. And she said, look, first time I've ever been asked to do this, destroy dailies, in a movie with no nudity, but okay. Was that the straw that broke the camel's back for Blake? It's hard to recover from that.
I don't know that something caused her to. I wouldn't use the term give in. I would just say, I think there was a willingness on her part to consider settlement and resolving it. And I do want to say, and no one said this. Ange Giannetti is, the first time I met her actually was in this case. Ange Giannetti is an incredible person. Incredibly honorable, and I've been, I think she's a very impressive, honest, honorable woman, who's been in this business a long time. I don't see her as a person that misrepresents things, that lies things, that hides things. My interpretation of Ange Giannetti is she is one hell of a woman and a great worker at Sony.
So likely what she said, those are legit texts. Do you think that was that mentioned? I'm sure you can't answer that, but I'm wondering if it was mentioned when they called you to settle like that. And then there's the Taylor Swift text, of course, which goes back to a year ago when you said, I have it on good authority, basically someone who would have access to this sort of thing and knows, told me directly that Blake demanded Taylor Swift delete her text messages, so there would be a second example of covering up. But the Ange thing was certainly very recent and right before the negotiations kind of went into high gear, as you said.
I think for anybody to be accused of sexual harassment, for anybody then, like Ange to be essentially accused of covering it up or not reporting what she heard, I think is a devastating allegation against someone, that if you believe it to be untrue and you're sure that it's untrue, it is a really, really hurtful moment, because most people, I can't imagine there's almost anyone that doesn't stand up for women, and is frankly, thinks, hiding sexual harassment, or even, the act of it itself is nothing but a horrible thing. So to be accused of it, you have no other choice but to try and clear your name, and really, do whatever you can to fight to do that. And remember, what changed this case considerably is Justin Baldoni didn't settle a sexual harassment case
No.
with Blake Lively. I mean, Justin Baldoni was dismissed from the case along with Jen Abel, Melissa Nathan, Steve Sarowitz, Jamie Heath, and those individuals were all dismissed at summary judgment. So all this case that was left in it were 3 claims and 3 defendants, and those are corporate entity defendants.
Yeah.
It ends with us, the movie LLC, the agency group, and Wayfair. So, this became a much different case after summary judgment. And I think that when you want to look at what really mattered, is some people don't recognize that this case shouldn't be referred to as Lively Baldoni. Should, ever since the summary judgment ruling, it should be referred to as Lively, Wayfair, or Lively It Ends With Us, the movie LLC.
Right. I mean, look, I imagine things will get back on track because Ryan Reynolds cannot have this. I know that he is driving from that side, for this to end hard, because his career is going to be affected even more. Right now, there's a question mark on it. This guy was bulletproof. He definitely will not have this going forward, and I don't think there is a price tag too high for him on that front. So what does the rest of your day look like? I imagine right back into it.
Right back into it, and loving every moment of it, frankly, in terms of trying to help others and trying to help people, and really trying to stop anyone who's been accused of any kind of a heinous crime or civil suit. And that's what it's about for me. It's been about that moment where you can really help someone and change them. And it doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens over a series of time. And sometimes people have gifts that happen to them along the way that they don't even realize are gifts. And so that's the beauty for me, is looking at those perfect moments, finding them, and vigorously advocating for my client like none other.
Well, you're good at that. That's for sure. Bryan Freedman joining us this morning. Thank you so much, my friend. I know you have a busy day, and we're very grateful for your time.
Thanks, Billy. And I just want to say something. Like, I couldn't be more proud of you. I wish I represented you years ago. And
me too.
And I couldn't be more proud of who you are as a person, because I know you as a person. I couldn't be more proud of what you're doing with your life now. I think you're going to be a huge, hit, and you're going to help people. I love the way you interact with content creators and everyone. And everyone I know that knows Billy Bush loves Billy Bush, truly. And from the bottom of my heart, I hope you don't have to go through it again, but hopefully next time you'll hire me.
Yeah. Oh, God. Please. That's a foregone conclusion. Bryan, thank you for saying that, and thank you again for your time. Please don't send a bill for it. See you soon.